Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the DFS Down Under Show. Here on a Wednesday night in Hobart Town, myself, Smatho 10, is back for another edition of the show, episode 30. And as always, have my sidekick on my right-hand side, Big Hef. How are you this evening, mate?
I'm pretty sore, Smatho. I've been creating Twitter accounts for the last 36 hours, trying to get myself in the All-Oz team. I think I've got over the line, but I'm really paying for it. My shoulder's killing me. But anyway, we're back for... There's a week off in the footy, but we're still back. We've got stuff to talk about.
We do have stuff to talk about. Now, apologies for the viewers who are going to be looking at it live tonight. Unfortunately, we had some issues with the pipe between us and the mainland, and we're going to blame the mainland for itself because I'm talking to you right now, which is great. So let's get into the show. Nice quick one tonight for our viewers. And as always, let's get stuck into my favourite part of the show, Smatho's Thumbs Up. And, mate, Saturday, one of the biggest fantasy scoring slates I've ever seen. Everyone seemed to be cashing pretty well high scores. And lo and behold, a cash around 820 was the mark you needed for Saturday. And then, come late Saturday evening, we found our boys at Fantasy Boss, who provide all of our free data tools for all the DFR site. So they chucked in a couple of entries on Saturday afternoon, and whooshka, bring up the side. Let's have a look at the old Fantasy Boss's side here on the Saturday. Took out $5,000 for first price alone. F, break us down for it. How did the old Fantasy Boss get up here?
Wow, that wasn't that a great forward line. The Cameron Narkle was quite a popular forward line, but they've combined them with a couple of sneaky plays there. Gary Ablett with his big 120, 100 for Heath Shaw on a day which wasn't great for the backs, and I loved Witsy in the ruck, actually. He was only about 10 or 11%, 154, 100% game time for big Witsy. Gave Mumford the runaround. Good to see the Fantasy Boss boys clean up there, because I did speak to them, and they said the week before they put in a heap of lineups and they had a player withdraw in every single lineup. So they were down on the canvas. We talked about this last week, but they bounced back. Week's a long time in DFS, and there you go, back in the promised land.
Yeah, like all that talk last week was all about Max Gawn, if he was going to play or not, and everyone jumped on Goldstein. And then when Gawn was picked, it was like goodbye lineups. And then obviously he went off bananas, and then obviously Witsy said hold my beer and went 154 instead. So look, 1,000 points when you're in AFL, 1,000 points for draft stars is a massive score. Obviously, I think the target in the Moneyball wasn't reached, by the way, so I think that continues. Ooh. So we'll keep an eye on that particular next couple of weeks, see if we can crack that. But Fantasy Boss, get the emoji up. Look at you. Just come in and take our money. 2 thumbs up for you guys. Well done. And also keep providing that awesome data and tools for us here at Day Fantasy Rankings. So they're always on the site for us. So let's move on the show. And as I said, your shoulders are already sore by the Twitter bots in your neck of the woods trying to get you up for All Australian. So the All Australians actually get announced tonight. I can see it on my Twitter feed right now, players getting selected and things like that. So we've put it out to the DFS community this week to select the 2019 DFR All Australian team. As I said on an article, let's get the article up there first for us, Avocado. Bring that up for me, mate. Well, good man. So we've already got six players that was decided by the selectors here at Day Fantasy Rankings. They didn't need to be put up for selection for the particular side. They were absolutely locks for the year. As you can see, if we put up the side there as well for us, Hef, you can see that our 2 main key players, we've got old JK up at full forward and his mate Chris Eddy, 999 down at full back. I reckon it's a very, very good spine going through the midfield of Brody, bit of a Stunke, the guy built. Even bit of Matty Lee was a bit of a controversial decision by the selectors, but you always got to have controversy in these particular teams there, Hef. And then rounding out who's rounding out the number 6 position there for us? It was Brody and R. William, and R. William too. They're in the guts. So
there was R. William in before he just destroyed everyone on Sunday, or did that sneak him in?
Oh, he's done like a Dangerfield. Like, he's been around all year. You know, he's good. He might have a couple of weeks where he might sook it up, and then just shows everyone the last couple of rounds that I'm pretty good at this particular game. So, wish he was on Twitter. If he's on Twitter, we'll be giving him a little sneaky couple of thumbs up as well. But there's 6 on the side as well. And then we've got the 4 media gurus, the contribution to the DFS community. We've got the boys there at Fantasy Inside and Stats Inside, and Rudy and Hedge. Parks 12 from Draft Stars. I can't believe he's an employee of Draft Stars now, but anyway, that's another story. And then I think I've done enough runs on the board to get a little mention in the commentary box there, Hef. What are your initial thoughts of the 4 blokes in the commentary box?
A few big personalities. Now, I saw these 4 names and it made me think of a movie, actually. There's 4 particular goers, and Avocado, if you can just pop this up on screen for us. Smatho, I'm sure you'd be well aware of the in-betweeners.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yes,
no.
I see a great likeness between.
I'm not Will. Is it Will? Is it Will, the guy with the glasses?
Yeah, you're Will. Yeah, there's no doubt in the world you're Will, Smatho. I'll let the other guys. I hear Hedges got a bit of size about him, so he can be Neil. And then Parks and Rudy, they can raffle Simon and Jay. Probably Parks would be Jay, I think. But first thing that came to mind was the in-betweeners, mainly because of you and Will. And I've seen your dance moves too, Smatho, and they're very, very similar. So, but all 4 of you have done a great job promoting DFS this year. So well earned. Is it interchange or the commentary box? Which one are we going with?
No, we're in the commentary box. So we were on the interchange, but then as the selectors met in the old boardroom here at DFR, we just realised there was a few players there that were deserving of a nomination, but to get in the side, we had to put it out to the folks on the Twitter poll. So there's still more polls to come on Twitter. There'll be a couple more tomorrow. They'll get us a few players into the team itself. And for those who didn't quite get into the first round of voting, don't worry about that. We have a little sneaky little more selection polling wildcard style selection coming over next week. So obviously next Wednesday night on the big show here, we'll be announcing the 2019 DFR All-Australian team. And if you do get in, Hef, is there any preference of position from that side if you were going to have a position?
Well, I did kick 6 off a half-forward flank in the under-9s back in the day. That's sort of what I hang my hat on.
So back pocket, great. All right, back pocket it is then.
I didn't sign up 82 Twitter accounts to get in the back pocket, but thanks to everyone who's voted. Like we saw earlier in the year, Smatho, you put a poll out and got maybe 30 votes, and I really hoped it was going to go a lot better than that poll did, and we're seeing good 100+ votes on every poll, so great to see everyone get behind it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing who gets in.
Yes, yeah, there's some blockbuster polls coming up too. So there's a little blockbuster poll that went out tonight. With our Tassie boys, Trent and Liam Swan. They got a little bit of a jump early, but I think the Prince of Perth at T-Better, he's just shown that he's worthy of selection out of those blokes. So don't fear those guys from Tassie. You never know. You just get the crew together, and you just get them voted in later on next week.
Actually, my favourite one has been the contest between I Love Lamp and Briz 17.
Oh yes, I was going to ask you about this.
Well, Briz 17 is such a fan of I Love Lamp that I think he actually voted for him, and he's absolutely shattered that of all the people you've put him in against his favourite DFS player. So he's got a bone to pick with you once again, Smatho.
Oh, no, there's a board of selectors. I'm just the one who just posts the content.
Well, you're the face, Smatho, and you're the one he's coming after. But if he sneaks through, I think he'll be going to the wild card round. If he can sneak through there, things might be all right with him. But as we know, Briz is unable to even sign up for Twitter, so he doesn't really know what's going on. We can feed him whatever info we want.
Fair enough. Now, Also, do make sure that you retweet, you vote in the polls in itself, give it a like, and make sure you tell your mates if you like a particular DFS player in this All-Australian, get around them, get your votes, and obviously get your mum and your dad and your brother and sister to vote for them as well. So, all right. Now, also, before we announce the show on Wednesday, there'll be great polls on, I think, Monday and Tuesday night. We will announce the vice captain and the captain of the side. And there's already been a talk early who's going to be the captain itself. So we can put our 2 cents worth into who the captain will be, but it'll be up to the people to decide.
As it should be. As it should be.
All right, let's move on the show.
It's like no one listen to Avocado there. He's rubbish. He's still getting over that tip of the Pies were 100 points last week. That didn't come off either. So next Wednesday night we might see something from the Avocado. What do you reckon, Smatho?
You want to reckon? I might bring my blazer next week, so we might have to dress up for the awards night. All right, let's move on the show nice and quick tonight. So. Also, we've got to put out a bit of content on the site this week with no AFL on the weekend. And lo and behold, we've actually got some good stuff to talk about. The first one I want to talk about is NFL. Season 100 of the National Football League starts next Thursday. Well, actually Friday morning in here in Australia. So we got together, myself and JK. We sat down and we talked about DraftKings lineup construction for NFL. If you're not a real NFL fan, you can always start with our article on the Daily Fantasy Rankings website where we break down the positions and the scoring of a particular site. But if you're an old hat of that, make sure you jump on the article on the site. And there's the podcast between JK and myself. Now, we did 2 parts of the podcast here, Hef. We talked about, how you do your lineups, etc. And then we talked about the Draft Stars VIP experience, which is the DraftKings, sorry. Let me say it again. DraftKings VIP experience. Imagine if it was Draft Stars VIP experience. Anyway, no, that's another story. DraftKings VIP experience. And, I kind of put a side together for JK to critique, and he gave me some constructive feedback, let's say that.
He was very, very kind from what I can tell, but yeah, those names didn't mean a whole lot to me either, Smatho, but NFL is a really popular game. DraftKings has huge prize pools. Obviously, that VIP experience, which is locked out. So if you're in there, best of luck. I always say these podcasts are a must listen. Getting this sort of information on DFS is pretty rare. So anytime you can listen to someone who knows what they're doing, talk about lineups and strategy, I think you've just got to eat it up. So you love doing the podcast with Jay, and I think they're well worth listening to.
No, they are worth a listen, and it's good to catch up with a great mind in terms of for DFS and obviously other aspects of his particular life. So make sure you do check out our articles. There'll be plenty of previews for the first game, which is Green Bay and the Bears on Friday. And then we've got a massive 12-game slate on Sunday night. Now, also a bit of contentious area as well is the NFL itself have not released the rights to Red Zone to Australian New Zealand viewers, which is a bit of a shame. So it's the equivalent. What would it be the equivalent of here in Australia? I'm not quite sure, but it's essentially we now have to pay to watch Red Zone through the NFL, which is a bit disappointing. I'm sure other people they'll suck it up. It's kind of the age that we are in now, where if you want content, you got to pay for it. But, geez,
except for this show, Smatho.
Sorry, what was that again?
Pay for this. Except for this show, you don't have to pay for this.
Oh, we should do a 3 a.m. show just talking fantasy NFL if you want to do that. It's popular in the States.
Is Red Zone, is that like Winners? Remember Winners on Fox Footy? I'd run through all the games quickly at the end and Dwayne Russell on Winners.
Yeah, the fifth quarter kind of style. Nah, it's like
sort of see what's going on.
Oh, it's just literally like if there's a goal about to score in the AFL. If the AFL had 10 games on the same time, they'll literally just cut to where everyone's scoring a goal. And then if not, they'll show a highlight of a goal. And that's it. None of this tackling, none of this boundary ball-ins, none of this quarter-time stuff. It's literally they'll just show every goal whipping around the grounds. And that's what happens in Red Zone. So
I'm starting to understand why you've been sooking so hard on Twitter the last couple of days.
Yes,
Fair enough.
yes,
Fair enough.
yes. It's the world we live in now. So, but as I said, keep in tune with the Daily Fantasy Rankings website. We'll have all of our previews and tips for DFS slates next week. Speaking of DraftKings, this week, the US Open at Flushing Meadows. It started this week, and our boy, our man, one of the most popular guys on tennis Twitter, Ace Previews, has come back with us with some DraftKings previews on the site. I've been following his plays very, very intently, and we are hoping for some good cashes coming up this week. Hef, have you been seeing Ace's previews?
I love Ace's previews. I was it Kitty Calendar who said, "Stick with me, you'll be farting through silk." I think that's a great way to describe Ace's previews as well. He knows what he's talking about, Ace, and I think there's definitely a hole there in these tennis DraftKings comms. That if you've got some good mail, which Ace is providing, I think you can make some waves. So they're right up there with the best stuff we've got on the website for sure. Make sure you check them out. And there's so much action. I love the tennis majors. I find it hard to get into the rest of the year, but the majors are where it's at, and there's plenty going on, and Ace has got us covered.
Yeah, he's got us covered, and I think I caught a bit of curious action this morning, so he's not far away from some drama. It looked like he played pretty well, and then lo and behold, there's articles on him later looking it up. So, but you won't be sooking if you won't be sooking if you be following Ace's previews on our DFR website. So do make sure you check it out. Also, with no AFL on this week, we have some clear space for a bit of NRL. It's just some regular NRL action, and Draft Stars have come to the party here this week, Hef, and they put up $15,000 tomorrow night on Thursday night for the Cowboys and the Bulldogs. Now, these two particular teams are not actually in the final, so having $15K available, it's going to be pretty good. It's also $4,000 on Moneyball, and there's some increased pools over the weekend. So make sure you see Corey's article, which will be going up on the website either late this evening, if not early tomorrow morning, for your viewing pleasure. You're going to be involved in the NRL this week, Hef?
Look, probably not. Probably not.
More for me.
Do you think NRL it needs the free kick that AFL gives it this week? Like, does AFL really need to take the week off? That's what I'm getting at. I'm not going to go watching the NRL just because it's a week off, but there's got to be people out there. You'd be one of them, Smatho, who thrives on a bit of NRL. Do you reckon the AFL should stick with this week off?
They've given it a couple of years ago now. Sure, at the time when it was popular to say, yeah, we should give these players a week off. They give them a week off, but they haven't planned it out pretty well in terms of content. Sure, they've changed the awards nights now to this particular week. They could have had the Brownlow this week. But come Monday, Tuesday next week, people will be itching for AFL, and all of a sudden there's nothing for them to get their content-wise. So that could change. Look, they talk about wildcard weekends, which I think I'm a bit of a fan of. At least there'll be a couple of games which will be prime time. There'll be huge contests on DFS. And, everyone's Supercoach and AFL fantasy teams are now done for the year, so they begin each of you itching for fantasy. So you don't know. You never know. But that's the AFL. They just like to do things, and people like to talk about it.
They like to try and copy stuff in America and just get it all out of context and stuff it up, basically. But it'll be back soon. And we can concentrate on the footy instead of worrying about who's going to be playing where next year. Save that for after the season.
Now, next week, obviously, we've got the slates on Moneyball and Draft Stars already been posted by the two sites. Now, down here in Moneyball, there's $25,000 on the Thursday and the Friday. There's a $15,000 two-gamer slate, and then obviously the 10K gains for the Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening. And then over at Draft Stars, $75,000 on the Thursday, $75,000 on the Friday, and then 50-50 Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. So good final single contests coming up. Therefore, we'll have 4 single game contest previews from our boys here at DFR. The data tools from Fantasy Boss will be updated in due course, and we'll tweet out on our socials and Facebook to say that they're updated, ready to go. Hef, without going into too much detail on the footy itself, what are your initial thoughts for next week's finals campaign?
My initial thoughts are there 4 great games to get stuck into. as an Eagles fan, I basically consider their season over.
Yes.
I don't want to talk any more about that. And I'm actually quite scared that Essendon are going to go over and beat them and put us all out of our misery. But I mean, you look at Geelong, Collingwood is going to be a ripper. Brisbane, Richmond rematch at Brisbane's home ground. That's just so intriguing to me to see if Brisbane can be back up there. I think if the Tigers get over the Lions, it might be the year of the Tiger, which I hate to say. I'll be going the baby Lions. I think if you don't have any skin in the game, you'll be trying to kick home the Lions this year. And, GWS versus the Dogs.
So Hef looks like he's dropped out here. So, Avocado with some trust issues coming up again.
He doesn't like talking down Richmond. And GWS Bulldogs, obviously the other one, which how can you catch GWS at the moment? And you just got to think of the Bulldogs giving them a total whopping a couple of weeks ago. Can they do it again? 4 really interesting matches, I think. So can't wait to get stuck into them next week. You got a bit of time to go through the last few games these teams have been playing and look at the roles and just have a think about what's going to happen next week, because I think it's not all about numbers, DFS. I think if you can land on who's getting the right roles, and we know finals footy can be very different to the regular season stuff. So that's just something to keep in the back of the mind as we look forward to the footy next week.
Yeah, and speak of the back of the mind, obviously Kansas's bias articles wrapped up with his final article today. So if you want to you've got some time now to just go back over those 10 articles and talk about, okay, this is what happened in the past. How can I, dissect this data? How dissect my mindset? So they're available on the DFR website. So make sure you check those out. You've got some time to do that. So shout out to you, Kansas. Great content. The last 10 or so weeks with your content. Now, obviously, we've got some little sneaky kind of contests coming up as well, Hef, with the FIBA World Cup. Starts this Saturday afternoon and evening here in Australia. So we're going to have some primetime basketball, which is going to be great. Being held in China. DraftKings are going to be putting out some contests, which is going to be great. And DFR here, we're going to be covering the main games here for the World Cup, including Australia's games, the United States. And we'll start out with DraftKings been posting out a little contest on Saturday, so we're going to have something up for you on that particular weekend. Obviously, you're a big fan of the NBA, Hef. Are you going to be interested in our Aussie boys going forward?
I will, actually. I watched the end of their game against the US from the comfort of my lounge room, so I had a good view. Yes. It was great to see them knock them off. I think the World Cup's going to be pretty interesting. I like watching these national games of basketball. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. Basketball man Jesse, he'll be all over it as usual, and I'll definitely be reading them, and I might even get a couple of sneaky teams in. I think
get a couple of sneaky teams. Also kicking off this weekend is the EPL as well with match day 4. We've got 5 games on Saturday night kicking off at around midnight. Some controversy on DraftKings today when they posted their contest. They've actually dropped the 2:30 game in the morning, and it's got some people's knickers in a little bit of a knot. So that edge of doing a bit of a late swap on DraftKings is now no longer. You just got those solid 5 games all at the same time. So Draft Stars will be putting out content. Obviously, DraftKings are out, so we'll look out for our preview for EPL match day 4. Yeah, I reckon we've got through the content that we needed to do tonight. Obviously, no AFL, so obviously you've had the week off, but we're obviously looking for you to fire up next week. 4 massive games. Looking forward to your thoughts. We might see if we can get some other people involved as well next week. Hef, I've got something in the back of my mind that I actually to ask some people yet, but sometimes a second opinion, mate, is could lead you down a slopey rough track, but you're the man here at DFR, and we'll look forward to your preview next week of AFL finals.
It should be a massive show next week. So we'll rest it up this week, and we'll be raring to go next week. Sounds good.
Yeah, rest up, but make sure you keep on the Daily Fantasy website at all times. All right, guys. We'll catch you next Wednesday for a massive show, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for the show. Thanks, Hef.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.